Our next story is about the war in West Asia. Israel has been at war for more than a year now. It started with the October 7th Hamas attack and the subsequent war on Gaza. The war escalated last month. It expanded into Lebanon, with Israel now fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel bombed Beirut again today. That's Lebanon's capital. Israel targeted the suburbs in southern Beirut, and it leveled multiple buildings in the area. Israel also launched an airstrike on Nabateh, a major town in southern Lebanon. The Israeli strike hit Nabateh's municipal headquarters. At least 6 people were killed, including the town's mayor. Meanwhile, Hezbollah launched a barrage of rockets at northern Israel. They fired around 30 rockets. Most were intercepted, but at least one hit the ground and injured 4 people. Now, while Israel is busy fighting in Lebanon, it hasn't forgotten about Gaza. It is conducting an operation in northern Gaza as well, but a problem has cropped up. Israel is starting to face pushback from its chief ally, the United States. On Sunday, the US sent Israel a letter threatening to cut military aid. Yes, you heard that right. Israel's biggest backer has threatened to stop sending weapons unless Israel eases the pressure on Gaza. Washington's chief concern is aid flowing into Gaza. As you know, Gaza is under siege. Israel controls almost all routes in and out of Gaza. This means that Israel also controls anything that goes in, including humanitarian aid. Now, Israel has squeezed aid in the past, but in April they eased the pressure. They started allowing 300 to 400 trucks of aid to enter the enclave every day. But that number has been falling because of a new customs law that Israel brought in. This law allows Israel to stop relief supplies from entering Gaza, and because of that, the aid flowing in is about half of what it was a few months ago. The US is not happy about this. They want at least 350 trucks of relief supplies to enter Gaza every day. And that is what they demanded in the letter. Washington has issued an ultimatum. If the aid does not flow within 30 days, the US might cut military aid to Israel. And this may not be a bluff. The US can do it. It's written into their law. Any country receiving American weapons during a war has an obligation. It must not hinder the US from delivering aid. That's what the law says. So technically, Israel is violating American law by stopping aid shipments. And that means that the US is legally required to stop sending them weapons. All of this was mentioned in Sunday's letter, which was signed by the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. So Israel is taking it seriously. Its military released this video today, the Israeli military, purportedly showing aid trucks entering Gaza. Again, this was released by the Israeli military, so it seems that the US threat worked. But why do you think that is? After all, Israel has happily ignored the US in the past. US President Joe Biden drew multiple red lines. He told Netanyahu to not invade Rafah, to not escalate the war, to not invade Lebanon. Netanyahu was playing hopscotch with Biden's red lines. Why then is Israel suddenly paying heed to an American threat? Well, because it's not just America anymore. All of Israel's Western allies are upset with Netanyahu, and they're all contemplating punitive action. Let's start with France. Netanyahu is in a war of words with the French president, Emmanuel Macron. Macron had called for the end of weapon shipments to Israel last week. This was over Israel's actions in Lebanon. Obviously, Netanyahu was not amused. He called Macron's statement a disgrace. This spat has now escalated. Yesterday, Macron held a meeting with his ministers. It was a closed-door meeting, but one of the attendees leaked Macron's statement. He apparently said that Netanyahu should not ignore decisions from the United Nations. He added, and I quote, "Mr. Netanyahu must not forget that his country was created by a UN decision." This is a reference to a UN General Assembly vote in 1947, which ended the British Mandate of Palestine and created the modern state of Israel. Netanyahu was furious when he heard about Macron's barb. He responded by saying, and I'm quoting again, "A reminder to the President of France. It was not the UN resolution that established the State of Israel, but rather the victory achieved in the War of Independence with the blood of heroic fighters, many of whom were Holocaust survivors, including from the Vichy regime in France." That's a sharp rebuke and an insult. Netanyahu reminded Macron that some French people bent the knee to the Nazis and helped Hitler kill Jewish people. Netanyahu is not conceding to Macron. But how long can he keep defying the West? Today, the UK decided to pile on the pressure.
And Israel must take all possible steps to avoid civilian casualties, to allow aid into Gaza in much greater volume, and provide the UN and humanitarian partners the ability to operate effectively. Mr. Speaker, along with France, the UK will convene an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council to address this.
Britain seems to be following America's lead, and they're backing France to boot. It seems like a coordinated effort. The West is squeezing Israel together. They want Netanyahu to increase aid to Gaza and back away from Lebanon. Netanyahu's options are limited. He needs Western weapons to continue the war. That explains the fresh aid to Gaza. But will he listen to the West when it comes to Lebanon and Hezbollah? Judging by today's airstrikes, that's highly unlikely.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election. Explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.